I cannot believe the results I got with these. This is going to really surprise you. It surprised me. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Parker Varner of Rachel Studio, and I try to share not just the how, but the why of watercolor so you move along your painting journey a lot faster. And in today's demonstration, I am going to share with you some art supplies that were pretty inexpensive for what you get. For the longest time, I've been wanting to try Temu art supplies, but I'm kind of cheap. And even though Temu art supplies are very reasonable, that's kind of their shtick. In fact, I don't really like to buy supplies unless I really need them because I'm cheap. And also, I have a small house. Where am I going to put all this stuff? I don't know. But anyway, when Temu reached out to offer me a collaboration and let me try some of their art supplies, I could not resist. Curiosity killed this cat, and I am so glad it did because the results I got from these art supplies really surprised me. And for those of you who don't know what Temu is, it is kind of like Amazon. It's an online platform where lots of different sellers offer their wares for really decent prices. And Temu guarantees shipping, and they offer free shipping and free returns if you return the item within 90 days. So you really can't lose. So be sure to use my link below in the description to download the Temu app. And don't forget to use this discount code to get an even better price. Also, if you are new to using the Temu app, Temu has offered to give my viewers a $100 coupon code if you use the link in my description, download the Temu app, and then input this special code for a discount $100 coupon bundle. So here we are in my description, and there is the little link. It will take you to the website, and then down here at the bottom, you see the offer. You get this $100 coupon bundle. So you scan the QR code to download the Temu app, and then once you're in the app on your phone, you can search the code that I have shown here on the screen. And so in today's demonstration, I'm going to try three main art supplies. I'm going to try their what they call Mary's Masters Series watercolor paints. These watercolor paints, there's 24 tubes, and they have real pigment in them. And I know for a fact that it is real pigment because you'll see as well once we start the demonstration in painting that the way, especially the ultramarine blue granulates out, it's gorgeous. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Actually, let me show you the paints. Marie's Masters level paint set. These are all the colors that you get. There's so many beautiful ones. I couldn't believe it. I swatched them out. I'm not going to show most of that footage because it would take forever, but I compared some of the colors that have the exact same pigment to some of my professional museum quality paints, and I swatched them out side by side. I couldn't tell the difference. I was shocked. Usually when I get cheap paint off Amazon, it looks chalky. It looks, I don't know, it's like a synthetic looking color pop. It's not pretty. And I can tell these are real pigments. I'm really amazed. So I'm also going to use this palette. This palette is porcelain, and it was under $15. And I couldn't believe how inexpensive this was for. It's really heavy. It's a really nice palette, and I love the size of it. For me, it'll be great for making videos because it's compact, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. I really liked it. But anyway, we're also going to try out paper. It's the bane of us watercolorists' existence because the better the paper you paint with, the better your paintings are going to come out. You can use cheap paint. You can use cheap brushes. But your watercolor paper will really change the way your paint looks and how it sits on top of the paper, making the colors bright or dull. Whether or not you can get really light lights and really dark darks depends on the quality of your paper. And so it's really hard to find really good paper that's a reasonable price. And I can tell you, I feel like this is a really reasonable price. This is about roughly 4,000 square inches of paper. This is the rough press. This is the Masters bow hung Masters Series rough press. It's about 4,000 square inches, and it's about $40. It's a lot of paper. I mean, look at how much paper is on this roll. And for the same amount of paper, I did the calculations. It would be roughly $60 for my brand that I like, that's artist quality, professional quality paper. And I can't wait. I can't wait to show you the results that I got. I also got hot press paper, and it's the same price, same amount of paper, roughly around $40. With my discount code, it'll be less. And the same amount of paper is roughly about $60 if I was buying my favorite paper that I always work with. So I was really, really impressed, and I can't wait to share these paintings with you. And real quick, just get a little bit of business out of the way. Thank you so much to Sam Carter on unsplash.com for the muse that I will be working from for this painting. And thank you also to Rachel Ashlyn for her muse. I found her picture on Calico Cats Are #1 Facebook group. If y'all haven't discovered Facebook groups, oh my gosh, you are missing out. I get so many great reference photos off Facebook groups. And I should mention, I have a Facebook group you can join for free. You can upload your photos, your paintings, and get feedback, or just share or ask a question, any art-related question. You don't have to be a watercolorist, and we really learn a lot from each other. You can also join my Patreon for free. And in fact, I'm running a special right now where I have a free start to finish real-time Christmas tree tutorial. It's one of my favorite Christmas trees I've ever painted, and I'm making it available for free as a thank you to everyone who's been joining my Patreon lately. It's been crazy. And I thank everyone so much for joining my Patreon for free. And I feel very appreciative for that. And so I like to offer free little goodies all the time. So don't miss out on that and join my Patreon for free. And then once you join at a paid tier level, you'll get access to, depending on what tier you choose, up to 200 or more full real-time tutorials that almost all come with a line drawing, a reference photo, and a supply list. So you get a lot of good stuff for a really reasonable price that you just pay every month. And I hope I will see you there. But anyway, let's get painting. Let's take a look at how these supplies do. It was so fun to try these supplies out, and I was surprised with the results. Let me show you. I use a limited palette. I like to mix my own colors, so I'm going to use a limited palette of just a yellow. So I'll use the cadmium yellow. That looks like the most pure primary on this palette. I most often use French ultramarine, so we'll use that. I think the crimson is the closest to a primary red. You know, adjust from there. I might decide I need other colors. All right, real quick before we get to the sheep, which I painted on hot press paper, I want to show you this painting that I did on the rough paper, which I really was impressed with this paper as well. What I really like about Bao what I've learned from practicing on these papers, is that they take scrubbing really well. And when you're painting a really soft cat like this in watercolor, you can get a lot of hard edges. So as this painting unfolds, as you watch this, you're going to notice there's a lot of hard edges. And an easy way to soften a lot of that is going to be let all the paint completely dry, get what is called a watercolor stiff scrubber, and you can scrub the edges of a lot of this and soften it so much. And I actually want to go back and really work on this painting more and soften a lot of the edges of the fur even more. But I was extremely pleasantly surprised at how much I liked this paper, how beautiful the colors look on it. Now, the colors on the left are very gray, but that's because I wanted them to be gray, to be one dark, and also to be quiet so that the oranges in the cat would really shine. So they were gray because I wanted them to be gray, because I wanted the oranges in the cat's face to really shine. And again, that's why I put the blues in the right side of the painting, because blue is complementary color of orange. So if you put a little blue in your painting where you want the orange to really vibrate, you use a complementary color. So blue is the complement of orange. And so it really makes this orange look even brighter than it is. And I just love, by the way, the ultramarine blue in this paint set. I think it's called Marie's paint set. And I finished this off with some line work and then even more blues in the shadows of this cat's fur. And I was really impressed with this paper and very pleasantly surprised how much I like it. But let's get to the good stuff, shall we? This painting that I'm going to show you is my first try at this sheep. So for my Patreon tutorial, I am really leaning towards painting this one more time in an even simpler way, so it's more accessible to more of my viewers. And I like to often I'll repaint something to make it simpler so that more of my online students will be able to follow my tutorial. But this painting I'm doing on the Bao Hung Masters series hot press. And I am in love with my Stonehenge hot press. But what I don't love about my Stonehenge hot press is that it tears when you take the tape off. You can't scrub it with a stiff scrubber. You can lift beautifully with a soft scrubber. But, and also it will tear if you use a masking on it. So it tears really easily. And the wonderful surprise that I got with this paper is it doesn't tear. The tape won't tear it when you take your tape off. That means if you have straight elements within your painting, you can also use tape for straight lines. You can use masking to, like in this painting, it would be fun to splash masking on this for snow effects. And also you could use masking in the curly cues of the sheep's wool. And anyway, let me catch you up with what I'm doing. These colors that I'm using, I painted this with a very limited palette of the colors that came in Marie's palette. I was very impressed with them. I used a yellow, the ultramarine color, and then the red, whichever red it is in that set that looks the most pure primary red. It doesn't lean blue or yellow. It's really a very red. It's not a rose color. It's more like a lipstick Corvette red, fire truck red. And these three colors mixed together so beautifully, like these purples that I was able to mix with the blue and the red and just a little bit of yellow to gray it down was really pretty. Again, why did I want to gray my colors down? Because I wanted the reds in this painting to pop. I put a few places of pure red in this painting, and there is a reason for that, because if you want your painting to pop, try to figure out a way to put a little bit of a red component in your painting. So this painting was perfect because it's a holiday motif. So the red berries, and also I'm going to get those ears nice and red. They're going to have red parts in them. But anyway, I'm painting on dry paper here with milk consistency paint. If you don't know my lingo that I use, milk, tea, cream, butter consistency paint, be sure to watch my watercolor clock video that was inspired by Zabukvich's amazing book about the watercolor clock and different pairings of paint ratios to moisture levels on your paper and all the different combinations of effects you can get when you understand how the different pairings work together. But here I was almost using too puddly a paint in the ears, but I used an underpainting of orange and then I floated in the red. That's called charging. Then for these leaves, the main thing I would say about the leaves is I painted wet on dry. That means my paint was about milk consistency on dry paper. And the important thing to give the leaves structure was to paint around a few slivers of the veins in the leaves. And I really liked when sometimes I was too clumsy and I didn't get them great, but that top leaf especially, I really liked how that looked. And so I'm not a leaf painter, and they do look very simple, but they actually take some practice. And this was my very first time painting leaves. But my favorite leaves were the ones where I painted around some whites to suggest veins. And then, so I would paint them with a gray-green, just yellow and blue mixed together with a touch of yellow to make it grayer. And then while it was still wet but setting up, I would put a little charge of pure orange or red in the tip. And I really liked that effect as well. So some leaves are better than others, but I really loved how these colors mixed together and how I didn't need a lot of colors to paint this. And this is the thing, when you paint with just 3 or 4 tubes of paint color, your painting is going to be naturally more balanced and the colors are all going to work together way better. The trick is to pick 3 colors, a yellow, red, and blue, or whatever colors you want, but you want to pick 3 colors that all mix together beautifully. And these 3 colors, I just love all the subtle, neutral purples and greens and oranges even. And if you mix them all together, you get this nice dark brown color that was perfect for the pine cones. So that's basically mixing mud. I also do have black, and sometimes I added a little bit of black, but the only place I really used black in this painting much was in the eyes, because I really wanted the eyes to really pop. So to get eyes to really pop and call attention to themselves, you have the smallest details, you have the highest contrast in the eye area, the super black against the super white, like the eyelashes and the eye glints. And that will really help your viewer find their way to the eyes. But another trick that I really loved using, I like this technique, but I think Ellen Crimmy Trent demonstrated it the best with her Christmas tutorial. I think it was like 2 years ago. She painted poinsettias and she painted the leaves and then she let them kind of set up. I can't remember if she let them completely dry, but you can let everything completely dry with perfectly hard edges. And then you swish over them with a scrubber and loosen them back up. It's so pretty. But anyway, for the nose, I did an underpainting. I got it, the whole nose area wet and then just floated in some pink. Then I'll let that all dry and I'll go back in and put in the hard edges and the darker parts of the nose. And here's the trick with the wool, painting the wool, especially on the top of the head. You actually, when you're painting white things in watercolor, you paint around the whites. So we're painting a sheep. We're doing a lot of painting around the sheep. And so like the curls on the top of the head, notice I painted the round circle part in the middle of the curl. And then I painted around the white wool to make it look kind of like curls of a sheep. Also, for this background for the colors, I used just the blue and the red and a little bit of yellow to make it really nice gray colors. And some of it is green gray, and some of it is purple gray, and some of it is blue gray. And I just varied the colors, just give it a nice soft background. By the way, I put some salt, but it ended up not having good salt effects. I find ultramarine doesn't do great salt effects. Phthalo blue is better. But what I loved about this paint, and I was so shocked, is how much granulation I got with this ultramarine blue as the base of all the mixes. I mean, there's blue in basically every color I mixed here except for the ears. And the granulation looks so dreamy and beautiful. When it dried, it was gorgeous. And then I was playing in the background, lifting out fir trees. And I wasn't getting great results, but I was just playing and experimenting. As my online students know, a lot of my paintings, I do want them to be beautiful, but usually I end up, curiosity always kills this cat. I'm always experimenting. So I was seeing what would happen if I tried to lift out some fir tree shapes and then paint in some fir tree shapes. And then when this all dried, you can't really see them that much. But I would have to kind of work with this more and probably let my paper dry more when I'm lifting out. There's all kinds of different things that you can do to get a better cauliflower effect for trees, but it's beyond the scope of this tutorial to really go down that rabbit hole, which is a fun one. But okay, so now the nose area is completely dry. I can paint in the main components of the nostrils. So just with a thicker paint, the less water you add to your paint, the darker your paint's going to be. So when you're painting dark things like the eyes and the nose, just mix less water into your mix. And you basically mix purple and add a little bit of yellow, and then you get a black or a very dark blue leaning brown, which is perfect for the nose details, the mouth, and the eyes. And then for the shadows, I just used purple. So again, for all this shadow color that I'm painting in the sheep's wool, I'm using just a purple mix, blue and red with a touch of yellow. And I'm painting mostly the shadows in between the clumps of the white wool. So that's the trick to painting white fur. You paint the shadows between the clumps. And then I felt like his chest had gotten a little too harsh looking, too many hard edges. So after it completely dried, I scrubbed over it pretty vigorously to 1, lighten it up, and 2, to soften it. So that's what you saw me do right there. All right, I'm starting a new session. This is after I had slept on this painting. I almost abandoned this painting, but I'm back at it the next morning when I was fresh, and I'm mixing 3 puddles of colors, a yellow green, a true green, and a blue green, and a little bit of red, because I got to this stage of the painting and I hated it. I didn't think this garland over here made sense, but then I realized I just need to continue it on the other side. And I decided to keep going. So one of the tricks to making leaves look pretty is not to have just one flat green color, but to have several greens. So that's why you see how I mix several different green colors in the palette, using more yellow on one side and then it running the gamut all the way over to the pure blue, so that I made sure that my leaves didn't look flat. And again, paint around the white glint in the berries. When you paint the berries, I painted the berries with pure red. A trick you can do to make red look even redder in your painting is to paint a yellow underpainting, then let it dry, and then paint the red on top of it, and it will make your red glow even more. Now, I didn't do that for this painting, but I like to put in little nuggets of watercolor wisdom throughout my tutorials. For those of you who stick it out and listen to the whole thing, I do reward you with my best tips that I can think of that you can apply to any painting you're painting, not just the painting we're working on now. So here I'm getting more of an orange mix. Now I'm making it a brown. Okay, so that's how I mixed my brown. It's basically all 3 colors in pretty much equal ratio parts to mix the pine cone color and its cream consistency so that we get a nice dark brown color. I'm getting more about milk consistency red. Notice when I paint these berries, I paint around a glint. If you don't have steady enough hands to do that, you can use masking to mask out the glint, or you can use a white gel pen later to put the glint back into each cherry or berry, I should say. They're not cherries, they're berries. And also put a little glimmer in the eye. You can even touch up the pine cones if you want more snow look on them. And here I go with a stiff scrubber on hot press. I could not do this on my beloved Stonehenge hot press. I could not believe how vigorous I could scrub this paper to get softer edges. So the way I like to use scrubbers the most, there are several ways, but the best way is to let your paint completely dry. Make sure you use non-staining paint, which ultramarine blue is beautifully non-staining. And then you get a stiff scrubber. After your paint's completely dried, you get your scrubber wet with clean, clear water, and then you scrub away. And it's like magic as you scrub the edges, like I scrubbed the ear edges and I scrubbed the chest a lot. It's just almost magic how dreamy it will make. It'll dreamify your painting when you soften a lot of the edges. Like look at that ear with the softer edge. Love. All right, now I'm really starting to put in the tiny little jewelry details. So I pull up my picture by the way, which is by Sam Carter on unsplash.com. I'm putting in the smaller little details to tease out the contours of the eye. I'm using my eye formula that I teach. I do have a whole video on how to paint eyes of cats, but the same ideas apply no matter what kind of eye, whether it's a sheep, cat, or human eye. That's a very good video to watch. And the gist of it is, for each iris, you make the top of the iris dark, the middle, the local color, if there is a local color. This sheep's eye is just black. And then the bottom third is really light. And it just makes it look like it's three-dimensional. And it also makes it look wet and like an eye should look, like a glistening marble. So I really like doing that. And then as everything dries, I can continue to add layers of more color. I wanted more pink and red in the nose because splashes of red in your painting will really look good. And plus it ties together with the berries nicely, and having that in the ears gives this goat, why did I say goat? Sheep, a backlit look. And I really wanted to make this sheep look like he was glowing from a beautiful light. So I made sure to get the edges pure white. I painted around the white paper, and I painted his ears as if the light was shining through them. And then I'm just continuing to put on the finishing touches. I felt like there's pine cones on the right. I needed at least one to balance it out by putting one over on the left. And a quick word about how to find references to paint garland. What I did is I went on Etsy and looked at a lot of different garlands and took what I liked from several different ones. So it becomes my own garland. And you can go on websites like Pier 1 Imports, and they have garlands for sale, often have pretty pictures of the garlands. So you can go do searches all over the internet for garland that you like, and then just paint your impression of them. And that's how I found the ideas to paint this garland. And as long as you make it your own and your garland looks nothing like the garland that you painted, it doesn't look like any one reference photo, then you're probably pretty safe with copyright there. All right, so I'm getting some pure red on my little 0 round, and I blotted my brush. So you pick up your paint and then you blot the heel of your brush, and that will give you the control you need to paint these smaller little details. So when you touch your brush to the berry, it doesn't blob out on you. So the secret is blotting your brush. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this start to finish tutorial. I will be releasing a tutorial of this motif, this sheep with a garland, in real time. I probably will release this exact painting in real time just so that I can get something out to my online students. But I hope also to paint a more beginner-friendly one that is more accessible to even more people. And usually my first try at a painting is pretty, I'm just kind of, I feel like it's all over the place. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. I was pretty much honestly gobsmacked at how good these art supplies were, especially the paint was gorgeous. I just couldn't believe it. And the paper is almost half the price of my beloved Arches cold press, my Stonehenge hot press that I prefer to paint on. So this is great paper to have on hand for studies, but even really for the final painting, this is really good paper. So I was really impressed. And I also really like this palette that I used. I'm going to use this palette a lot, and it was porcelain and it was under $15. So I was really impressed with the quality of these art supplies. I got off Temu, so be sure to check out my links in the description again and my discount code. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And until next time, go watercolor your world. Bye, everybody.